put a lot of stuff on the table, and then just have like the key burn spells to take out cards like Lotus Cobra. You know, you might just be able to get them underneath their Baneslayer Angel. But a Patrick Sullivan version.
Oh
of red.
man, I think I might want to root for Robert Nguyen just because he looks cool.
Yeah, he also has the awesome I Heart Fatty sleeves, which can be found at StarCityGames.com. Again, I'm Jacob Van Lunen, and I'm here with Adrian Sullivan. We're in sunny Los Angeles at the Star City Games Open Series. This is the standard event, and we're in round 8 right now. We're watching Matt Sperling, and he's playing against Robert Nguyen. This is a win-and-in match, and Robert is playing mono red.
Wait, win and in?
Yes.
I think Robert Nguyen is.
Yes.
Sorry, there.
That's kind of an advantage, isn't it? In the win-and-in match.
Oh.
And, yeah. So Robert Nguyen is, doing very well here. I'm thinking that this might be his first go at a pretty high-level finish. Matt Sperling is no stranger to high-level Magic. It's good to see people like Robert doing really well this event. A lot of the local California guys decided that they wanted to be playing mono red today. I was talking to a few of them last night, and they're pretty confident that their decks were very good. I wouldn't be surprised if Robert's deck had cards like Molten Tail Masticore in the sideboard. That's something that a lot of the Cali players had.
So once we get the deck list in front of us for Robert, we'll be able to find out if he's playing Patrick Sullivan's version or if he's got a slight variant on that. Most likely, given the success of the decks, that's what we've been seeing. Speaking of Patrick Sullivan, yeah. Patrick Sullivan's going to hop on in here.
Hey, what's going on?
Hello, brother from another mother.
How you doing, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Patrick. And we have the Turn 1 Goblin Guide, which is my favorite opening.
Yeah, he was there a lot for me in Edison. He's a good man.
Okay, so what Matt Sperling is playing, because you weren't here when we were going over the deck list, he's playing a green-white Fauna Shaman-based deck that has a lot of creatures, including Baneslayer Angels, and numerous Gideons as well.
Yeah, I actually was watching Sperling register his deck before the tournament started, so I got to get a good look at it. So yeah, it looks like a pretty standard kind of Fauna Shaman skeleton, a lot of the bullets that you'd expect to have there.
Absolutely.
And he's got do we know if our opponent's actually goblins or if he's mono red?
We believe that Robert Nguyen is playing your build. We're
Okay.
not 100% sure of that, but we believe he's playing your build. As soon as we get the deck list, we'll know.
Okay.
And to my mind, this is not an exciting matchup because those Gideons and the Baneslayers are a rough combination.
Yeah, sure. I mean, game 1 seems like pretty good for the red deck, I think, just because Sperling's leaning pretty heavily on mana critters to kind of get his draw going, and he's leaning on Fauna Shaman and a lot of guys that aren't reliable. But I know in his board he has a bunch of Core Firewalkers, which, if any of those stick, then it's pretty hard to win. So
down to 12. So one of the things, maybe you can illuminate for me. I know that in the past we've talked about Core Firewalker. How do you feel about Core Firewalker by its lonesome, so to speak, against your deck?
It's pretty awesome. I mean, if their draw has literally nothing else going on, then you can beat it. But if they have any sort of draw and you don't have Ratchet Bomb to disrupt it, then it's very hard to win.
So basically, essentially, once Core Firewalker has a friend, then it's really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, you have Ratchet Bomb on the board, and I was advising a couple of people that were playing this deck to just side out all of your 2-drops and bring in Ratchet Bomb and either Artrail or Mark of Mutiny as appropriate against decks that can reliably cast Core Firewalker like Sperling's deck or the blue-white Callblade decks. The blue-white-red and the blue-white black builds, their mana is a little strained to have it reliably, so most of them just kind of sideboard.
Cool.
A different set of cards.
So we have Lotus Cobra powering out Kramer of the Callblade, the Squadron Hawks. And he selected 2 more Squadron Hawks. A Teetering Peaks on the Goblin Guide is going to come in, and it looks like there's a sword on top. That looked like a sword of body and mind.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that there's a hard call here between choosing to throw that Lotus Cobra in the way of 4 damage, choosing to throw Kramer in the way of 4 damage. Kramer being the Squadron Hawk that Matt Sperling has marked up there. I don't think you want to take it. You don't want to lose a third
No,
of your
there's no
life.
way, there's no way that he's taking the shot. It's just does he chump block or...
Yeah.
So he's going to trade with the Cobra and then a Geopede from
Right.
Robert. Sperling untapped pretty fast there. I think he was pretty excited that it was all he could muster with his turn.
Right. A Linvala would be one of the scarier things that Sperling can do on this turn if he has the mana for it.
Yeah. No, that was another card I was actually surprised a lot more people weren't sideboarding in against me during the Edison tournament, just because it's just a 4 toughness guy, so it's out of the range of a lot of the spells, or all the spells, and it shuts off Spike Shot Elder, which is for a lot of the Squadron Hawk decks, especially the ones that don't have red, is a really troublesome card. No one actually ever cast it against me, so I'm not sure if people just weren't bringing in or whatever, but I think that card's pretty underrated against the mono red decks.
So let's find out what Sperling is going to be doing to make us see where his plan was. And here's Robert Nguyen's list, the exact 60 that was played by Patrick Sullivan. The sideboard is a little bit different with an inclusion of tumble magnets and a little bit of shaving down of some of the other cards to fit in 3 tumble magnets.
Sure.
Tumble magnet is not a bad call against cards like Core Firewalker.
Yeah, no, I see the, I can definitely see the logic behind that card. I saw a couple other people in some of the top 8 and top 16s in Memphis had Jinx title, and that's another card I could see having value, but...
You know, I've played Jinx title in a lot of decks, and I just don't see it being valuable enough in a deck like this versus a deck that includes Core Firewalker.
Right. So, yeah, the people that were playing my decks, I just basically advised to cut Manic Vandal and play Tunnel Ignis instead in the board, because I never really wanted 4 Manic Vandals, or even 1 Manic Vandal, basically, over the course of the tournament. And just having a little bit of extra action against Valakut's Knights, like, basically I would be happy just to have the 11 sideboard cards, the 3 marks, but you had to fill out the 4 slots with something, and I think Tunnel Ignis was probably the next best thing, just because it can improve the Valakut matchup pretty substantially.
Yeah, I know that from my experience playing various different versions of Red, I almost always felt like if I had 4 Mark of Mutinies, that was sufficient for me to feel comfortable with the Valakut matchup.
Yeah, you can still, you know, you still have sort of this this need to apply pressure. Like, you can only have so many of those cards kind of gumming up your hand. And there was a lot of matchups where I felt like I only wanted 3 Mark of Mutinies anyway.
Right. So now we have a Koth, and the Koth comes down. It looks like it's probably gonna make a 4/4, but there we go. Good.
Yeah.
4/4 coming in with a 3/3. It looks like. I don't believe that I saw a sack land that turn. Maybe I did, actually. Maybe I did.
And you're just passing the turn back.
Let's see. Where is he going to go with this? I would expect an attack here.
Well, I mean, if he's passing with his land up, it only means that the only thing that can really mean is he's just planning on killing a Squadron Hawk or trying to play defense this turn to try to get Koth the ultimate.
There we go. And it looks like Elaine is joining Kramer here. And here we have, what, a Goblin Guide perhaps? The way, nope,
No,
Spike Shot
no,
Elder.
no.
That's good. Untap a mountain, or even perhaps,
Yeah,
there we go.
land too.
Oh,
Jeez.
5. That can do 9 damage if he wants it, knocking his opponent down to 3. Yep.
Yeah, he's going
Knock-
upstairs.
Down to 3. And all it's going to take is a lightning bolt, and that would be it. But he's not just showing it, so unless he's a real slow roller, I don't think he has it. Oh, there we go. There we go.
I actually thought that he had lightning bolt, because when he passed with the Koth and not attacking with his, just leaving the 1 mana up, it probably he wants to just play defense against a potential Vengevine reanimation. So
I was actually thinking it might have been a burst, because otherwise, just the way he played that he actively took the time to make sure the mountain was in play.
Sure.
And, then, and then did it. I was like, oh, he doesn't have the kill.
Yeah.
I thought he left the mountain up to defend the Koth otherwise.
Right.
Because then you got, with a burst and a plated Geopede, they can defend against a Vengevine as well.
Yeah. But from that position, it's pretty hard with Sperling stalled on lands there and not
Yeah.
going to be able to apply pressure to Koth. That's pretty hard to lose. This is where it's going to get tough for Robert.
In comes the Silvok Lifestaff. In comes a Baneslayer Angel. In comes 3 core Firewalkers. In comes probably a Linvala. In comes a Gideon Jura. And then there are other cards he can maybe bring in. I mean, he could maybe bring in Mortar Pods and Amiri Angels.
I think Mortapod's probably fine. I mean, it's very likely that he wants. I talked to Matt this morning, and he said that, or we kind of agreed that Lotus Cobra is just always pretty bad in this matchup, but birds are going to be good on the play.
Yeah.
Because, like, basically, you can't just pass on turn. You can't just not bolt it. You can't play a guy. So birds at the minimum is messing up with the tempo of his game. And also, he's only got 4 bolts and 4 burst lightning, so it's possible that you just get hands that can't kill a bird on turn 1. But I think Lotus Cobra just it's too fragile, it plays too well into Searing Blaze, and I think that card needs to hit the bench no matter what.
Absolutely. Cards that I think he can afford to get rid of. I think he can afford to get rid of Viridian Corruptor, Mirran Crusader, Core Sanctifiers. I think
he's got just weird utility creatures he can have hit the bench
Sun
here.
Titan can run away. I think you want to keep the Bone Horde, but when it comes to Sword of Body and Mind and Sword of Feast and Famine, I kind of wonder if those are just, pie in the sky.
I don't know. I think Feast and Famine is still good enough.
Good enough?
But I think Sword of Body and Mind there's often where, like, basically the scenario is what happens when you're playing this turn into Koth. And when it's Body and Mind, then you just have your 2/2 black back, and it's not enough. But if you get to untap and do other stuff with your turn, then you can hedge against Koth. So I think that equipment's still good enough, but I would cut the blue-green sword.
Okay, so that means then we've got minus Sword of Body and Mind, minus Sun Titan, minus Sanctifiers, minus Crusader, minus Corruptor, and minus Lotus Cobras just in general. That's 9 cards.
He still might want Sun Titan. He's got to have some closing speed. So it's possible he might keep that card in still.
I think that he should be fine to close with Gideons and Baneslayers, right?
Sure, yeah, but it's a singleton. He still might want that card.
That's fair. On the other side of the table, he doesn't know his opponent has Core Firewalker, but he can be concerned that it could exist.
Yes.
The problem with bringing in a Ratchet Bomb is that it makes your deck less aggressive.
Right.
So how do you strike the balance there? Do you wait till game 3 to discover it? I think since he's up a game, he should not bring in Ratchet Bombs, and then if he discovers there's Core Firewalker, then consider whether he wants to do anything about it.
I think Ratchet Bomb is good enough, just kind of, like, Sperling's got a lot of cheap permanents, and he's got a lot of, worst comes to worst, you can start going upstairs with your Ratchet Bomb to hedge against the big drops. And I think that, Sperling's got a pretty stable mana base. I think you just have to expect it. And if you bring in Market Mutiny against his fat guys, then that can catch up a lot of the aggression you're losing, because that gives you a lot of closing speed. If I was in Robert's position, I would just assume, like, any 2-color white deck, I just have to assume has Firewalker there. I've actually got to go and try to sell the last 2 of my Clippers tickets here, so I'm going to pass it back to Jacob here. But it's a pleasure checking in, and
always a pleasure,
I'll
Patrick.
be around. Yeah, be good.
Cheers. Wait a second, before you go, one last question. What are you playing tomorrow?
Mono Red Burn, 8 blasts, and 4 Searing Blazes in the board, because I anticipate a lot of Merfolk.
Cool.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Jacob.
Hello.
It's always a treat to have Patrick Sullivan in the booth.
Matt starts it off by playing a Forest into a Bird of Paradise. It's exceptionally strong when you're on the play. And Robert doesn't seem to have a 1-mana burn spell to deal with the Bird. Matt's probably just going to play a Plains here and just stick a Firewalker. That seems like the best play to me. I think he gets to play another Bird also once he does that.
Okay, the Mortar Pod that
he
Patrick and I were talking
Pod.
about comes out. Mortar Pod is just a really interesting card.
Yeah,
Being able to
it's a powerful spell.
preemptively kill a plated Geopede is pretty good. Knocking out a Spike Shot Elder. And then after that, being able to turn your random creatures into that same ability.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good with a draw like what Matt has now, where he has multiple birds. You can start using those birds and, grinding out a pretty big advantage when the birds aren't really useful later on in the game.
An Arc Trail here would be very effective from Robert if he has it.
Yeah.
Looks like a Searing Blaze?
Yeah, I believe that's Searing Blaze. All Alright, so Matt's going to drop down to 17. Loses a bird. Now, this is where things get really awkward for Robert. Matt drops down to 16, pops Marsh Flats, grabs a Plains, and he may just go ahead and play Linvala. It's a 3/4. Seems like it, applies a decent amount of pressure and creates a board presence. He may just play a Firewalker. There's the Linvala. Seems reasonable. The activated abilities part, it's relevant here. It turns off Spike Shot Elder and Eberhauler. What's more relevant is the fact that it's a 3/4 creature.
I mean, 3/4 for 4 is just quite big. To be fair,
Yeah, especially when you're playing on the third turn.
Mostly
it's
two
it's getting
creatures
into
or
red
two
decks.
cards for the most part, or a lot of mana for Robert to be able to kill it.
Robert goes ahead and plays a Tumble Magnet. Matt gets in there for 3 with his Linvala, dropping Robert down to 15. Matt pops Fetchland, going down to 15 himself. He's going to find himself another Plains. I'm not quite sure what's in his hand here. I know the worst case scenario is him playing a Firewalker, which is not too shabby.
3 mana. Is that
Oh,
2 Firewalkers?
that's 2
4
Firewalkers.
Oh, that should
And
do
I mean,
it.
that's basically it.
That should do it.
And I mean, now, almost every spell that Robert casts, short of Tumble Magnets, is just, gaining Matt life. Getting that, losing the advantage that Red wants to have. And that's what's so crazy about Firewalker, is Firewalker just, especially if it comes down, in the earlier turns of the game, it makes things very hard for the Red deck. The Red deck, every spell they play just it gets a little bit worse, and negatively affects the resource that they're most concerned with.
One of the things that makes this card very different than a Phyrexian Crusader, the Crusader basically puts on a huge clock while doing something similar to the core Firewalker, in the sense of holding off the attackers on the ground. Whereas the core Firewalker, it doesn't put on the clock, but it turns off that ability to easily bring someone from 15 down to 0.
Yep.
Instead, that becomes...
You can't go over the top with burn spells.
You have to be taking them down from 9 to 0, maybe.
Yep.
2 core Firewalkers all but destroys that as even something to think about.
I think Matt just has a land in hand. Matt decides to ping Robert with his Germ, and then equip the Mortar Pod onto his bird. This allows Matt to threaten lethal, even if Robert decides to use a burn spell.
Koth
Or
comes
even if
down.
he starts to use both of his Tumble Magnets here.
Koth makes a 4/4 and marches on in.
Yeah, now Matt's just going to take this damage. And, I mean, the bird, the mana that the bird taps for is actually important because it allows Matt to deal an extra 3.
Yeah.
With the, or an extra 1 damage with his Mortar Pod. So, it may not actually be relevant considering Robert has an even life total. But,
I mean, that life is so low right now.
yeah, it's really rough for Robert. I mean, even with Robert tapping 2 guys, it puts him down to 4. And then Matt has, a Mortar Pod in play, and he's at 4 with Firewalkers on the board. So
Yeah. Yeah, you've already laid a land. Okay.
yeah. Now Matt draws what looks like a spell. Can't quite tell what it is. And he enters combat step. Robert taps down Linvala and a Firewalker. Matt's going to get to attack here with at least a core Firewalker. And the tumble magnets, they do a decent amount of work here.
It's surprising just how much that card is doing. You've been talking about it all day,
Yep.
and it's not. It never really feels underwhelming. It always kind of feels important.
And now, I believe Matt just has the win on the board, right? Wasn't his opponent at 3? Yes.
If that life total is correct, then yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my assumption. That's why he didn't block with the bird last turn, because then he had lethal even through the 2 tumble magnets.
Yeah.
Now it looks like we're gonna have a game 3 here. It seems like Robert's gonna have trouble applying enough pressure in this game right now. Ooh, Manic Vandal deals some Mortar Pod.
Wow.
And, I mean, that's pretty good.
I
Matt
don't
can't
know
really
that it's
sacrifice
enough,
that
though,
Linvala.
right?
Now, if Matt had just gone for it last turn, he would have won.
Robert
but,
is still in a world of hurt.
No, he gets Matt to.
Is he spinning it down? Nope. Okay. Makes a 4.
Okay.
Makes a 4/4.
Yep. That's interesting here. Robert cannot crack this fetch line because going to 2 just has him dead. So. Robert
what do we have
plays
for
that Teetering Peaks post-combat, kind of a bit of a snafu.
Right. Having his opponent at 9. I think normally that would matter a lot more if it wasn't for those 2 core Firewalkers, which have basically been relegated to being bad terrors at this point, or half terrors.
Oh, I mean, they're much more than that. The Firewalkers at this point, they called most burn spells that Robert has. Robert can't go over the top.
So we're agreeing.
Yeah.
Okay. The Koth has to be attacked now.
And you really can't let his opponent just go ultimate with it. Matt's probably kicking himself for letting his opponent back in this game. It's still just about impossible for his opponent to win, though. So. But those extra 2 points could end up being relevant.
So it looks like, unless I'm missing this, is there only one active tumble magnet now?
No, both have 1 counter left on them.
Okay.
Yep. Now, Robert puts Matt down to 5. And, he passes the turn again.
Imagine if that life total was 3, you know?
Yeah. I mean, imagine if Robert's life total was 0.
Okay. Back up. Blocks. Knocks his opponent down to 3. Bolts to knock his opponent
down to 1. Or down to 2.
And a burst lightning would kill him?
No. He needed another bolt.
A kickered burst would kill him.
Oh, kickered burst, yeah. Oh, he had enough lands for that without cracking
he had enough lands.
Oh, it doesn't matter if he cracks the fetch now.
It looks like he did not have it, though. That was won by Matt Sperling. Okay. Looks like they are
just
having
found a
him,
marked card.
making him re-sleeve one of his cards.
Going back to the sideboard here, we have, Matt's deck again has access to Core Firewalker, which is so huge here. Robert has, Robert has the Tumble Magnets, and we saw in that game that, they can do a really good job at handling those Firewalkers.
They did a lot of work. I'm actually
especially in
surprised at how
conjunction
much
with that
work they did.
Firewalker. Yeah, I mean, had he used that tutoring piece correctly, he would have stolen that game.
Yeah.
Now, it's really unbelievable that he could have won that game.
I know.
Considering everything that happened.
I know.
In the board state.
I mean,
and Matt did draw nothing off the top of his library for a very long time, but, it was... and Matt also, could have won.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, one of the things,
turn,
obviously, though, particularly when you're talking about Matt playing a deck that he hadn't played until today. I mean, he just brewed it up, so his opportunity to have a lot of practice in with it, there's going to be the moments where that actually comes into play.
Now, it'd be really great to have somebody like Matt Sperling in the top 8 of this tournament. Somebody like Robert, too. Robert's a new player. It's always nice to see new players, new faces doing well.
Definitely.
Up-and-comer of the Star City Games circuit. You go ahead and win this event and then start coming to all of them, making himself a regular.
One of the things to notice for this game, Robert is in the space he wants to be. Because he won game 1, he gets to go first, which means that he could lay that Goblin Guide on turn 1 and follow it up with a Searing Blaze on turn 2.
That's one of the most frustrating things when you're playing against Red, is the fact that they always get to be on the play in games 2 or 3. One of them.
But
it always happens.
But game 3, going Goblin Guide on turn 1, that's a huge part of the matchup, right? That game 1 win can mean so much when it comes to game 3 if it gets to that game 3.
It's absolutely huge.
It's actually small. Yeah, it's smaller by like 8 or something. I know that like several people didn't play. It's only smaller by 8. I had to play last time. But then again, I lost the game.
Okay. So, I still think Sperling has the edge. Even though I love seeing Red win, but...
yeah. I mean, I'd have to agree that Sperling has the edge. He just has so many cards that are so bad for Robert. Then again, Robert has a lot of spells that handle those cards pretty well, so... I'm excited to see Tumble Magnet's interaction with the Baneslayer Angel. For those of you just joining us, I'm Jacob Van Lunen, and I'm here with Adrian Sullivan. We're in Los Angeles, and we're covering round 8 of the Star City Games Standard Open. This is going to be a 9-round tournament before it cuts to top 8. These two players here are playing for it, winning in, and a shot at top 8. Matt Sperling is playing a rogue green-white brew that he made the night before this tournament, and Robert Nguyen is playing mono-red. Robert Nguyen's Tumble Magnets proved themselves to be very powerful last game, and I'm excited to see how those do against Matt Sperling's strategy of Firewalker and Baneslayer post-board.
Right. Do you think that Matt Sperling is going to, in any way, go back to things like, if he did take them out in the first place, Viridian Corruptor as a card that he keeps a 1 of in the deck?
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised if he had kept in the Viridian Corruptor on the get-go. Decks like Robert's have been known to play swords as of late, and he doesn't really know what his opponent's sideboard plan is. Just the 2/2 infect's a decent blocker. I guess it's reasonable for him to have taken it out, especially if he's looking for spots. He does have to bring in the Baneslayer and the 3 Firewalkers, and I'm not really sure what he was originally taking out. Now, the game has started, and we have Matt leading out for the land, and Robert plays second land. Presumably, he's going to have a 2-drop. Yes. Let's see what it is. It's an Ember Hauler. And Matt gets to untap. And here he goes. He root the bird's not what you necessarily want to do, but turn 2 Firewalker's pretty nice. Now, we'll have to see how Robert plans on handling this Firewalker. And he plays a Ratchet Bomb. And he's going to start ticking that up slowly but surely. And that Ember Hauler will shoot Matt or it'll shoot that bird before it has to leave play for that Ratchet Bomb. Now, Robert looks like he has more 2-drops in his hand, but I doubt he wants to play them.
Wow,
oh,
plays
okay.
it right out there.
Okay, very interesting.
Maybe a part of what he wants to do here is just let that Ratchet Bomb be there as a thing to get rid of that core Firewalker eventually.
Okay.
But get in an attack first and then a sack, so he can get 6 damage out of 2 core Firewalkers. Or 6 damage out of 2 Ember Haulers.
Yeah.
Is that a mortar pot over there?
It looks like a Bone Horde to me.
Oh, is it a Born? Okay.
Now, I believe the Bone Horde is actually a
Is that
0/0?
Is that a dead? No, there's no German there, right?
I believe it's germless.
Yeah, hopefully they will recognize that it is germless right now.
I think they know. I actually really like this play by Robert. And he's just gonna,
Gets in a 4-point bit of damage.
He's gonna shoot Matt, and then I'm not quite sure what his next play is. Again, it's hard to play a 2-drop. He's just gonna pass his turn. Matt, pounds with a Vengevine, and that's pretty good. The fact that Matt didn't play his land, Robert may use December Hauler to take out that bird.
Yeah. I almost wonder if maybe Robert I'm wrong. I started to muse on something that I don't think would have been accurate.
We have or pops the Ratchet Bomb.
Response to the bird. We're going to see what happens. Oh, and hit the face.
He goes for the dome.
Now that Bone Horde is now a +3/+3.
Yeah. And if you do the math, the Bone Horde being +4/+4, it could actually change the game. Maybe that's what Robert was going for when he didn't kill the bird.
Another Ember Hauler. I think I see Josh Utterlate in the background.
Yeah, now he's playing 2. He's
Equip the Vengevine.
He's equipping the Vengevine with a Bone Horde, it looks like.
Here comes a big guy.
Matt serves with a very large Vengevine.
That's 7/6
I'd be surprised
Vengevine.
if we didn't see Robert block it and shoot the bird down.
Takes
No.
it.
Huh.
Oh,
Firewalker,
another
and that's just
Firewalker.
rough.
Firewalker with Bone Horde. Right now, in response to that, he has a thing to do. What's it going to be? Burst the head in response. Wow.
Let's put him to 13. Let's see what he has.
If there's not a tumble magnet here, this game just fell into the ground.
Yeah, the Firewalker in conjunction with the Bone Horde is just too much.
Yeah. And now the core Firewalker can just grab that sword.
Matt goes back to 14. I'm not sure. It's a May ability. He may have forgotten. No, he's at 14. And Matt did keep the Sun Titan in there. I'm interested to see what Matt decides to play here.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I believe that's a plus, still a +3/+3 sword.
Yeah.
So he might have other action that he wants to think about doing. So equipping to the core Firewalker goes down to 13.
Yeah,
6
we're not really
mana.
sure what he has
That
in his
equals
hand.
Sun Titan if he wants
That
it.
does equal Sun Titan if he wants it. And Sun Titan equals core Firewalker.
Yeah.
And that's a good Sun
Titan, core Firewalker. In comes Firewalker and a now somewhat smaller Vengevine.
Yeah.
Only a 7/5.
Yes.
Or let me doing the math right there. Pardon me. Only a 6/5.
I'm surprised Matt doesn't just serve with both. His opponent has to chump the Vengevine if he serves with both. Yeah, I mean, this is just impossibly rough. Like, every spell that Rubber plays makes Matt gain 2 life at this point.
Yep. At this point, I don't think even Tumbles can take care of it.
Yep. I think a Sun Titan and a pair of core Firewalkers is enough to handle a Double Magnet. Now the Bone Horde presents lethal. Oh, I actually like Matt's attack with just the Vengevine there because, you know, his opponent might not chump block and go to 1, maybe, and then Matt has the Motorbot in his hand. So he actually just gets his opponent if his opponent happens to not block. So he's giving his opponent this decision where his opponent will automatically lose as opposed to just making the correct play automatic for his opponent.
Koth comes down. What a rough position.
And now Matt's going to
Mortar
play
Pod.
Mortar Pod.
Blink. Take 1. Ember Hauler. Can't speak. Let's equip.
Let's equip this bird.
Hey, the bird. Take another Ember Hauler.
Yeah, and that's it. Matt takes the game.
Yep. Robert Nguyen shoots Matt
Fighting to
and
the
then
very end.
dies.
That's way more than 8.
That was a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Now, even though we already had decided in our own minds that this was a very good matchup for Matt Sperling, one of the things that's very interesting about